Hello students, welcome to science class. So we are continuing with the chapter 5, Separation of Substances. Okay, so this chapter is from your NCERT book. So let's see what we are going to learn today. Today we will be learning about two new methods of separation of mixture. As we are continuing with the different methods of separation of mixtures, today we will be learning about two methods, that is number one is sieving and number two is magnetic separation. Now in the different methods of separation of mixture, you all know that there are 10 different types of method of separation of mixtures are there. Out of that we have already learned about threshing, winnowing and hand picking. Today we will be learning about two method, that is sieving and magnetic separation. Alright, so let's start with the process. Now sieving. So before I say about what is sieving, what you have to know first of all what is a sieve. Okay, what is a sieve? Here in this picture, can you see different utensils are there? Okay, this is actually a sieve. What is a sieve? A sieve is a shallow vessel having small hole at its bottom. Okay, I think at your home you have seen this type of utensils, okay, which is a shallow vessel and having small net like holes at the bottom. Okay, sometimes an iron mesh like this, in the construction works you will find this kind of iron mesh. They can also be used as a sieve in some cases. Okay, now the method of separating a mixture by using a sieve, okay, is called what? Sieving. Okay, by using this kind of apparatus, okay, the method of separating a mixture is known as sieving. So where this sieving is particularly used? Sieving, it is used to separate those solid mixtures which have components of different sizes. Okay, suppose sometimes a component is larger whilst there are some fine components are also there. So in order to separate those solid mixture, okay, which are having components of different sizes, generally this process of sieving is followed. Okay, how it is done? The mixture having components of different sizes, they are put in a sieve and then the sieve is moved back, making a move back and forth continuously. Okay, I'll show you the process. First of all, here you see, now this is what? This is the size of the hole of the sieve. Okay, now sieves of different sizes of holes, they are used for separating different substances. Okay, and the size of the holes of the sieve, it is dependent upon the size of the particles, okay, that is to be separated from the mixture. Like if the particle is of this much of diameter, then you need the sieve of what? You need the sieve of bigger holes. Okay, but if it is a very fine, okay, then you need what? Then you need a sieve of very small pores. Okay, so sieves of different sizes, here you see different sizes means the size of the holes, okay, are used for separating different substances. All right, now here you see how this process of sieving is done. As I said you that the mixture having the components of different sizes, they are being put in the sieve, here you see, and then the sieve is moved back and forth continuously. Here you see the person is moving the sieve, okay, and the smaller particles, they are passing down through the pores of the sieve, okay, and the larger particles, they are left behind. Understood? The bigger particles of the mixture, as because they cannot pass through the holes of the sieve, they remain behind the sieve. Okay, so in this way the mixture, it gets separated into two components. What are the two components? One having small particles and another having larger particles. The larger particles, they are left behind the sieve, and the smaller particles, they keeps on passing down the sieve. Okay, now the wheat flour, okay, that is we generally bring from the flour mill, it is generally sieved. First of all, you will find that at your home, your mother, first she is sieving, okay, the wheat flour, and then she is making the roti or chapati. Why? The sieving of flour, it is done to remove what? To remove the coarse particle of the flour. Coarse particle of the flour means the wheat bran. Sometimes what happens, the chaff along with the wheat grain, the chaff, they also gets they also gets dried. Okay, so in order to separate those coarse particle of the flour, the sieving is being done. Okay, now when the wheat flour is put in a sieve and the sieve is moved back and forth repeatedly, what happens? The fine particles of the flour, it passes down through the small holes, as you can see in this video. Okay, and they are collected in a vessel which is kept below, and the bigger particles of wheat bran, it do not pass through the small holes of the sieve, and what happens? It remains behind the sieve. Alright, so in this way the wheat flour, it is separated into wheat bran and fine flour. Alright, next is like you all have seen this kind of scenario wherever there is a construction work, isn't it? Now we need fine sand for mixing in cement for plastering the walls of a house, isn't it? Now how this fine sand is obtained? Fine sand, it is obtained by the method of sieving. Okay, actually when the sand is being collected, it contains both the coarse particle, it also contains small pebbles, and it also contains fine sand. Now for plastering, you all need fine sand. Okay, now the coarse sand having the larger particles and pebbles, they are put onto the sieve. Okay, this kind of sieve, it consists of what? It consists of big iron mesh. Okay, and it is held in a slanting position like this. Okay, it is held in a slanting position, and what happens? The fine sand particle, it passes through the iron mesh. Here you see the person is putting the the coarse sand over here, and the fine sand particles are being collected over here. Understood? The bigger particles of the sand and the pebbles, they do not pass through this iron mesh. Why? Because they are larger than the pores of this iron mesh. Okay, so thus the fine sand, it can be separated from larger particles by the process of sieving. Alright, now this process of sieving, okay, it is also used in cashew nut factories. Okay, so like some cashew nuts, they are smaller in size. Okay, in the market also, if you go and buy cashew nut, you will find that there is some cashew nut which is whole cashew nut, some are broken from the middle, and some cashew nut you will find that they are broken into very smaller pieces. Okay, so some cashew nuts are small in size, some cashew nuts are bigger in size. Okay, so the cashew nut of different sizes, they are separated in the cashew nut factories by the process of sieving. Actually this is the machine. Okay, and over here also there is a iron mesh or steel mesh. Okay, that helps in separating what? That helps in separating the larger cashew nut from the smaller one. Okay, the smaller one, they are they just come out through this pores of the mesh. Okay, and the larger cashew nut, they are left behind. Okay, similarly the jewelers, they also separate the pearls of different sizes by the method of sieving. I hope you all have understood the process of sieving. Our next process of separation is what? Is magnetic separation. Okay, now magnetic separation, what does it mean? It means the separation of mixture by using a magnet. Okay, now we all know that iron, it is attracted by magnet. You all know that iron, it is a metal, it is attracted by the magnet. Okay, now this property of iron, it is used to separate it from a mixture. For example, if I say over here you want to separate a mixture of iron filings and sulfur powder. Okay, suppose this is a mixture which contains iron filing and sulfur powder. Okay, so how will you separate this mixture? You have to use what? You have to use a magnet. So how will you separate it now? Let's see. Now, in order to separate iron filings from sulfur, what you have to take? You have to take a horseshoe type of magnet. Okay, horseshoe type. This type of magnet, when I'll teach you the chapter magnetism, you will come to know about the different shapes of the magnet. Okay, so this kind of shape is known as the horseshoe, or you can say this is also a U-shaped magnet. Okay. Now, generally a magnet has got two poles. One is the north pole. Okay, this extreme end are actually known as poles. This is the north pole, this is the south pole. Okay, and what is the main characteristic of this pole? Generally in this pole, the iron, it gets attracted. Okay, rather than the center of the magnet. Okay, the poles, it attracts more iron. Okay, Now the iron filings, okay, now when this horseshoe magnet or U-shaped magnet, when it is brought near this mixture, then what happens, the iron filings, they are attracted by the magnet, okay, they cling to the poles of the magnet and thus they are separated, okay. Now this process has to be repeated number of times in order to achieve the complete separation of iron filings. Okay, now sulfur powder, as because it is a non-magnetic material means they cannot be attracted by a magnet, so it is not attracted by the magnet and it remains behind. Okay, so similarly a mixture of iron filing and sand, suppose in case of in place of this sulfur powder, if there is sand, then a mixture of iron filings and sand, they can also be separated by using a magnet in a similar way. Okay, in industries, the impurity of iron present in several substances, they are also removed by the use of a magnet. Okay. Now a carpenter, when the carpenter chops wood, I think you have seen that the sawdust comes out. Sawdust means the dust of wood, isn't it? Now sometimes they also work with the iron nail. So sometimes what happens, the iron nail, it gets mixed up with what, it gets mixed up with the sawdust. Okay, now with the help of hand picking also you can separate, but it will take a lot of time. Okay, but if you just take a magnet near that mixture of sawdust and iron nails, what you will find all the iron nails are getting attracted towards the magnet and thus you can separate. I hope it is clear to you. Here you can see this video. Magnetic attraction of iron filing. This is what, this is a magnet, bar magnet, here it is taken. Okay, and easily you will find all this magnetic substance, that is the pieces of iron, they gets attracted and thus they are separated. Okay, but in this video they have used bar magnet, and generally it is convenient to use either U-shaped magnet or horseshoe magnet. Why? Because in case of U-shaped magnet or horseshoe magnet, okay, as because two poles, both the poles are located on the same side, so more iron can be attracted at the same time. All right. Now, separation of scrap iron. Now, waste material supplied to factories, okay, it contains a number of scrap metals including the iron. Now, in a dumping ground, sometimes some materials are being collected for the process of recycling, isn't it? So, waste material which are being sent to the factories for the process of recycling, it contains a number of scrap metals inside it, including what? Including iron. Okay, so in factories, the scrap iron, it is being separated from the heap of the waste material by using electromagnet fitted in a crane. Okay, here you see this vehicle is known as a crane, and over here you see electromagnet is being fitted. This is electromagnet. What is electromagnet? A magnet which works with an electric current is called electromagnet. When I'll teach you the chapter magnet, you will come to know what is a natural magnet and what is electromagnet. Now electricity, it has got some magnetic property. Okay, so like when you pass electric current onto a iron rod, okay, it will show some magnetic property, and that type of magnet is known as electromagnet. Electromagnet is a very strong magnet. Okay, but electromagnet works only when the electric current is being passed onto it. Rest of the time electromagnet doesn't work. Okay, so when a crane is fitted with a powerful magnet, it is lowered onto the heap of the waste material like this. When it is lowered onto the heap of the waste material, then what happens? The scrap iron objects present in the heap, it generally gets attracted to the electromagnet, or it clings to the electromagnet. Okay, then the crane, it is moved up and away to drop the scrap iron objects at a separate place. Okay, so in this way the scrap iron is separated from the heap of the waste material. I hope all of you have understood this process of magnetic separation. So today in our class, what we have learned? Today in our class we have learned about sieving. For what purpose do we use sieving, and also we have learnt about magnetic separation. Okay, in our next class I will be discussing with you about two interesting method of separation of mixture, that is number 1 is sedimentation and number 2 is decantation. Till then, all of you stay home, stay safe. Thank you everyone.